to kind of share my points of view. Um, I think that's a very tough thing to do without business leaders within, I'm assuming, an organization wanting to work together, needing to work together, understanding what problem or what there is to try and identify, versus an individual solopreneur that's working, by themselves behind a computer and trying to, work through the, all the different tool sets that are there, whether it's ChatGPT, Tableau, Feedly, or anything else that's used. So at first, I would say cohesively in both examples, it definitely starts with the people. The people that are involved need to be part or centered around whatever strategy it is that you want to use or implement within the organization, or the task. And then with that in mind, I would suggest that, and I write about this, I talk about this pretty extensively in my book. You talk about processes, what processes are going to be involved, what processes need to be refined. Once you have those two calibrated, I would move on to technology. And that's where you pick your tech stack, whether it's one platform or multiple, to achieve whatever goal it is that you're trying to achieve.
Well, that's a really good start to this conversation, Achille. Thank you so much. I'm going to move across to Nancy now and ask her a little bit about sales and AI, because obviously that's going to be very useful indeed. Now, I'm not a natural salesperson at all. I can wax enthusiastic about something, but when it comes to crossing the line into sales, I find that really difficult, Nancy. So I'm really interested to hear how you might talk about say solopreneurs using AI to enhance their sales conversations, and connect authentically with prospects, because I think in the age of AI, the authenticity side of it is going to remain really important.
I agree. And I think that many of us who have been on the receiving end of automated LinkedIn requests, connection requests, etc., I actually wince at the idea of AI in sales, because right now it's not giving sales a good reputation at all. But again, it's the person who's using it, which is what Achille had just mentioned. It isn't the tool itself. It's how it's being used and who's using it.
That would definitely make sense to me. So we've got tools and we've got people. Now, Simon, you're here in New Zealand, which is really nice. So we've got 2 people from overseas and 2 people from New Zealand. So thank you for joining us today. Now, I understand that you wanted to share something with us. So I'll let you get that added, and we will put that on the screen for everybody to see. But you wanted to talk about some specific tools, I understand. I'm going to ask everyone else if they want to do that as well. But you've got some tools that you do want to talk about.
I do. I'm just... Right, I've got one on the screen now.
Now, I'm not sure where that might have gone. There it is. It is coming.
There it is.
Yay. Well done. Thank you. So talk us through this.
This is the Google AI Studio. I'd love to know how many of the people on this call are using Google AI Studio.
Not me. Please
Right.
drop your comments about that in the chat if you are using it. Let's have a thumbs up for, what's it called again, Simon?
Google AI Studio.
All right. What does it do?
Well, it does lots of things. One thing you can do is you can talk to it. A powerful one is to share screen, and that is where you can ask questions about how do I use a certain platform, and it'll guide you through, and it talks to you. So I had problems with my Descript. Let me find this here. Share. So what I can now do is say, I've got problems with my Descript. How can you help? And it'll then talk to me. Now I'm going to stop this now because I'm hearing it, you can't. So
All right.
the main thing
Seems like
is
Oh.
right. Okay. I've just stopped that. So it's free and it is an essential tool. You should have this and it should be your first port of call when you're stuck with anything. And it's
Is
amazing.
it free? Is it free, Simon?
Yep.
All right. Well, given that
and
Google is one of the major players in the AI sphere at present, I imagine that would be a useful tool.
right, I'll just put that in the private chat and Share can add that link. So this isn't a promo. It is genuinely a very useful tool and it's one that you should be all using.
All right.
So we're
That
now
makes
going to present, share a screen, and the next one okay, hang on, share screen.
Wouldn't it be nice if AI could make this all seamless for us? I guess it will do eventually. But right at the moment, it's it's still a bit confusing, isn't it?
So the next one is Notebook LM. And there's a free version. Because I have a Google Workspace, I get the Plus account. There are some limitations with the free account. You can only upload 50 sources. But for most mere mortals, 50 is more than you'd ever need.
Simon, what does it do? Can you tell us what the purpose of this tool is?
You can quiz these tools. So you can, the background here is that I was preparing for a podcast and the host asked me, would I talk about DeepSeek? This was over a month ago. And my first reaction was no, it's just too sensitive. I then saw more information and I decided I wasn't going to study all those documents. I'd get Notebook LM to do it for me.
Mm-hmm.
So what I've done is I uploaded various sources, all from credible accounts, and I then I can create a briefing document, a study guide, an FAQ, and I then use this study guide as the input into ChatGPT for my post on this topic.
Good grief, that's a long prompt.
Well, it is, the point to bear in mind is with ChatGPT, you could ask about DeepSeek and it'll go search all sorts of sources. With Notebook LM, for now, it only selects the sources that you have uploaded.
Right, that would
It's
make
like
sense.
it's like a closed book exam. These are the only sources you can refer to. There's no scope for imagination and going off track. And what you could, so this is, I then put this into ChatGPT. I'll cover that later if we have time, but that was my source. But the other thing you can do is you can create a conversation, a podcast.
Huh.
And those are really fun, but you can also customize it, which is what I highly recommend. The tip is save what your commands are, because once you've hit generate, they're gone. So it's helpful to know what you did. So what I then did, share this document there. So I used Notebook LM for my research and for analyzing the research. I put that into ChatGPT, went through a process to draft a LinkedIn post. But what I then did was I asked ChatGPT, write a summary suitable for Napkin AI. And that's an important step. If you just put in raw text, you won't get the same quality. So this is what I got from ChatGPT for Notebook LM, and here is the diagram I used And that's what I put in my post.
I think it's worth mentioning here, Simon, that Napkin AI, if people aren't familiar with it, is a very good tool to create diagrams, and at present it's free, at least it was the last time I used it, and
Yeah,
it can give you a variety of different formats for your diagrams, which is different from images that you might want something like a ChatGPT to create. So that's a useful thing for people who are wanting to put stats in or wanting to express their ideas diagrammatically. I think it's useful for that.
So I've just highlighted all the text, and it's given me lots of new diagrams.
Yeah, that's ideal.
And you can now export this to a PowerPoint as well as a PNG.
Right.
So,
I love that. Simon, can we just stop that one there for a
Yes.
minute? Because I'd like to talk to Achille and to Nancy about the tools they're using and some of the advantages and disadvantages of the various ones that are about. Achille, could you also, I want to start with you, but also could you just talk to us a bit about some of the issues that companies might be having with tools like this being made so widely available, and companies not necessarily keeping up with having an AI policy internally for the use of this kind of or these kinds of tools?
Listen, that's a great question, and I'm going to leverage what Simon was doing there. Companies really need to take a stance on creating governance within their policies, not only on how this type of technology is used, and I'll use a different example with ChatGPT. We all know that our employees, if they're not they're using it at home. They're using it to generate emails. They're using it to restructure. They're sometimes using it to create files, analyze files, which is all great. However, without the proper governance or guardrails put up so that this information doesn't get out to the Wild Wild West, you have some serious security concerns, and you're literally training the algorithm. Again, not a bad thing, but there's options in place there where you can shut that off. So if I were to share a ChatGPT example for an organization, you would literally create your own GPT. You don't have to create one. You can create, the linkability GPT, Lanier, and you can upload all those documents that you said that you were that you have, whether what prescribed transcripts, PDFs, and you can essentially create your own little call it library or avatar of yourself, maybe a thought leadership type practice, so that when you go and ask it a question, you can literally close it in within the confinements of that private GPT to yourself, meaning that information doesn't go out to the web or anywhere else, but it'll still go out there, a little different than the notebook, but it'll go out there on the web and pull out whatever information it has, and even do deep research where instead of taking 5 or 10 seconds, it'll take, call it 10 to 15 minutes. So we're at a stage where there's lots of, I'll say, training and education required, because I really don't think people realize the issues that could potentially arise if this is not governed well. And in this day and age, it's early, but as it progresses, everything will get better, tightened up, and people will have to, provide whatever their policies are or training to their workforce so that their information doesn't get leaked to their competition.
I think that's extremely important. I've just been reading this, The Coming Wave, by Mustafa Suleyman, who, as I understand it, I'm not sure if he still is, CEO of Microsoft. And this talks about exactly that issue, Achille, about how it is out there and how it's unstoppable. And what it's going to look like in the future, none of us really know, but it's coming at us, as this book says, a wave. Now, I imagine that you talk about that in your book too. And that, again, is called The Digital Advantage and is out on Amazon this week. So I think that we all need to be not only learning about the tools individually, but I think we need to be thinking in a bigger picture way on this as well, because there is no question that it is going to change everything. not just how we work in business, is going to change our lives. I've already stopped using Google as my main search engine, and I'm using ChatGPT for most searches that I would use. I even managed to get it to find the Jamie Oliver risotto recipe that I had misplaced. And so I'm using it in my personal life as well as in my business. But Nancy, you came up with a really cool tool you sent me a couple of weeks ago that I think might be really useful for people. I confess I've not looked at it, although our producer Cher did have a look at it. Tell us a bit about it, what it's called and what it does.
I'm not sure which one you might be referring to, because of course at this point I know quite a few. Pardon?
Magic.
Oh, okay. It's called Magi, MAGAI.co. And what it is it has taken 20 or so of the different AI tools, and they're all available within the same space. One of them is Perplexity, and I'm sure you gentlemen are familiar with that, because I think it's much more powerful than ChatGPT for searches. Why? Because it's actually connected to the internet. ChatGPT, it's like garbage in, garbage out. What has been fed into it is the only thing that it can output. Whereas Perplexity searches the web and gets information that, from new sources. And of course, information is constantly being generated. What Achilles said needs emphasizing and highlighting, because these tools, when we are inputting information, for example, the notebook that Simon, you mentioned, we know that it is learning about us. And so when we are inputting information, it does help to learn who we are and our point of view and our voice. But at the same time, it's now taking that information and can share it with people we don't know. And hence they don't know us and we don't get the credit, and off it goes.
One of the things that's concerning me, I think, Nancy, and this relates to what I just said about the way I'm now searching, is that most people who have small businesses have relied on Google and Google AdWords to get the word out and bring people to our websites, right? That's been the case for years, probably decades. But now things are changing. People aren't searching that way anymore. And I'd be interested to hear from you, actually, and also from the gentleman too, about this. Is how can we as business owners make sure that we are found in these AI searches, but also found in the right way? So our content's just not stolen, our IP and our ideas are not just stolen by AI. How can we make sure that doesn't happen, but we still get found in the right way? Is there such a thing as being found in the right way on AI? Nancy, would you like to answer that or have a go at that one?
So my suggestion is it has to do with, again, putting in hashtags and keywords. And those are very important in terms of search. One of the things that I've been advised to do by my mentor, Donna Cravata, is to, when I put in my photo, is to always have alternative text. Because again, photos can't be searched by many of these AI tools. They're depending on words. Hence, you need to have alternative text when you put in images.
That's an interesting idea, not one I've thought of. I'm not very good at remembering to do that when I'm even posting on LinkedIn, actually, and adding content there. I should be doing that more. So that's a really valuable tip. Thank you very much on that one. Simon, have you got any ideas about this? And I do know you want to go back to your tools, and we'll do that in a minute. But I'm interested if you have got some thoughts about how we can make sure we get found in AI searches.
It's a challenge.
Yes, no question.
It's similar to the demise of the yellow pages, which used to be that thick, and they got thinner and thinner and thinner, and now they're people who've been in business for quite some years who would have no clue what the yellow pages is. So I just say, watch this space. I think long form content will help. But yeah, it's a tough one.
Kelly, have you got any ideas on this?
Well, I can tell you this. I mean, definitely SEO and Google is changing, and putting the meta tags and the hashtags and being consistent so that the Google algorithm indexes you, because that Google search is still Google and Bing are the most popular ones. That's really I believe the old and tried and true way of doing it and continuing to do it, and it takes time because you want to set up a web page. Depends what you're doing. You want to make sure that your content there is relevant. You need to update it consistently. I'm finding, or I'm hearing, I shouldn't say I'm finding, I've been told that getting reviews on whatever the products are that it is servicing from a Google review or any type of review is very helpful to notch you up. But it's not a 1 week or 2 week endeavor. It's a 6 to 1 year plan, 18-month strategy, and your reputation is kind of built over time.
That makes a lot of sense to me, and it sounds exactly like LinkedIn, because it is a long game on LinkedIn too. So anything that you are doing on LinkedIn, which can, I'm assuming, be searched for, certainly by Google and Bing, and therefore you would like to hope through to AI, needs to have all of that information on an SEO if you're writing articles and newsletters, alt text if you're adding videos or images. And definitely do look at long form content that's got plenty of keywords in it, because that's how you'll be found, how you will be found. I'm finding that articles and long form content on LinkedIn are doing very well at present, and it makes sense because it has longevity on Google and on the platform. People can come back to it and find it. So I think your SEO suggestions on that are really valuable when it comes to LinkedIn. But I'm also pretty sure that the important thing is to have a good LinkedIn profile and to work on that and constantly be updating that. And if you're adding media and links back to websites or your YouTube channel, for example, which we have one of, by the way, called Linkability NZ. You're welcome to go and have a look at some of our videos. But I think that by doing all of that, then you are going to be better placed than many people who still haven't yet got the idea that this is going to be important or realized how fast this is coming at us, because I think that even by the end of the year, things are going to have changed tremendously. And a conversation like this will probably be entirely obsolete because we'll be talking about completely different things altogether. That's how fast I think it's going. But let's go back to those tools. And Simon, have you got something else that you would like to show us? We've already had a couple of good ones from you. So actually we've had 3 good ones. We've had Napkin, we've had the Google one, and the one in the middle, which was Notebook. So thank you for those. What else might you have that you would like to share with us? Because the more tools we have, the better we'll be able to do our work.
This is Descript.
Mhm.
What I will do over the next day or two is to record a better quality video and a shorter one. But Descript does various things. It transcribes the text, and you can then edit that, and it will automatically change the both the audio and the video. And with this Underlord, you can have studio sound. But the really exciting things are Underlord. So you can remove filler words, the which I of course never use. Sorry, I should explain. This video was intentionally bad because I wanted to show how it could be improved.
Right.
You can remove retakes. You can shorten. Now, even if you're the best video editor, you can only remove, you can't add.
True.
With Descript, you can add. And it'll then have that word said in your voice.
Goodness me.
And the other one is the eye contact. So I'm now looking at the screen, but let's suppose it doesn't matter what platform you're using, you may have some notes because you don't have photographic memory. So you glance down. And the moment you glance down, you lose eye contact with the viewers. Descript fixes that. So it means that you're going to get a far higher quality video and literally takes a few clicks. But the other thing is that you're more relaxed because you know, if I just stuff up or I'd have to rephrase something, don't worry, it'll fix that for me. So you're more likely to be fluent because you're feeling more comfortable. Now the eye contact is only available in the creator plan, which is $39 per month. So it's not cheap. But if you are creating videos, then this is really helpful. And if you're not creating videos because it's seen as being too difficult, too time consuming, then this might encourage you to do so. Start with a free plan and then work your way up.
Wow. Well, the interesting thing about that, of course, is how much LinkedIn has moved towards video in the last 2 to 3 years. Now, I remember when LinkedIn wasn't like that at all, and it was all about the text. But now, quite clearly, it's really mainly about video. So having the option to be able to use tools like that, I think, is really exciting. And look, this is something that I was really anti at the beginning as well, and that is having video avatars or kind of replacement, having video look like it was me and pretending to be me. But I can see a time coming where we are not going to feel like that, where we are going to feel that it's perfectly okay for that to be the case. And that's something that I do want to talk about, is how attitudes are changing to this. Share, could you just remove that from the screen if you wouldn't mind? Thank you. And I'd like to just canvass your opinions on how the three of you are feeling about the way things have changed and the speed at which we are changing our attitude towards everything to do with AI. Because when it first arrived, as I said earlier, I was really anti it. I thought it was going to be the worst thing that could possibly happen. But now I've changed my mind on that. My attitude's changed. I'm really excited about what it can do and the possibilities that there are. So I'm interested to hear about how you feel attitudes are changing. Is my attitude change something that is widespread, or do you think that is something that's going to take a lot more time? Achille, you have got your finger on the pulse of all this because you're constantly talking with big organizations and getting in front of teams working for those organizations. What are your thoughts on this? Are attitudes towards AI changing fast enough, do you think?
It's mixed. The truth is it's mixed, because there's one camp that's all in, and they really want to take advantage of all of what AI can provide, but it's not new to them. And these are your Amazons, Googles, Metas. This for them is not particularly new. This type of science and these LLMs have been out, not this sophisticated, by the way, and not out to the public, but they did exist. Then you have another camp that's still skeptical, not understanding the impact, what they should do. So they're just looking to invest so that they can have a hand in the bag and make sure that they stay relevant and competitive. And, I think there is a large group that's kind of still, sitting back saying, what am I going to do and how can I leverage this? Because you're right. I mean, this will look much different in 5 years. This will look much different in 10 years. I think, if I were to share an example, we are accustomed to, software version updates, Windows 98, Windows 2000, Windows 365. Now I feel like these updates come like week after week. Like OpenAI for me seems to release some new functionality every time some big competitor does, and literally they're waiting for that to happen, and then they publish to stay one up. And so there's definitely an arms race there. I'll share with you this. Do you need all the technology out there, and do you need to be cutting edge? Absolutely not. I think if you start small and just learn at, say, 1% a day, or just move the needle a little bit every day and incorporate it in your life or in your workplace so that it is helpful, I think it's very powerful. I mean, it can easily, make your workday, 4 or 5 times more productive. But if you're trying to chase every new shiny object, I think it'll be detrimental to any productivity that you try and do, because I just don't think there's any way one person or a group of small individuals can keep up with everything that it can do.
No, I would tend to agree with that. No, I now see that if I don't use AI, I won't remain relevant and competitive either. And I've even added an AI section to my Linkability members community because of this, so that I can help my members to be able to use AI with their LinkedIn work, because I think there are so many possibilities for that. LinkedIn's own AI is not that great at this point, but it is going to get better, I'm certain. In the meantime, my recommendation is for people who are using AI to do it off LinkedIn and then to import it to LinkedIn. I think that's where the key is going to be. Now, I have neglected to suggest that if anybody in the audience wants to come on stage and ask any of these fine people a question, or even just to share their ideas, you are very welcome to do that. This is an open forum for anybody who would like to come on stage. It is a camera on event, as you can see, so please make sure that you do have your camera on, and that is the link that you will need to join me on the stage. So Nancy, let's go back to you and ask you your opinion on this question, where it relates to AI and the change of attitude. Somebody in my membership just last week had a conversation, who was in sales herself. So she's a sales executive, and she had a conversation with an AI bot for quite some time before she realized that it wasn't an AI bot. And she only realized that because of her knowledge of the sales process. So do you think that a lot of people are coming up and are coming across AI bots already when they're dealing with big companies and don't even know it, even now?
Well, again, these bots have been around before AI became the word AI. We have had bots, and some of us have adapted quickly and some of us don't. I mean, there's a typical curve. I'm sure many of us are familiar with it. The early adapters, who jump on board these new technology things, and then eventually a larger group begins to see the advantages, and eventually most people get on board. And the people who fail to embrace these changes are the ones that, scurry at the end and, are at a disadvantage. So it's great that you're airing this kind of program, Lanier, so that people are prompted to realize, guess what? I don't want to be left behind.
I definitely don't want to be left behind. And that was one of the real reasons why I decided I needed to get on board with it, because I'm not naturally an early adopter when it comes to AI and tech. I mean, look at me. I began my professional career on a manual typewriter, and those things belong in museums these days. So a lot of changes have been made in my lifetime. And
I typed my dissertation on a manual typewriter. All right. So I remember those days.
Wow.
And there was a world before smartphones too. And so consequently, I realized, though, that if I don't get on board with this and learn how to use it, I am going to be left behind. But what I have been surprised by is how enthusiastic I am about it now. I've kind of fallen in love with it, and I'm instead of watching Netflix at night, I'm playing with AI, trying to get it to do different things, trying to work out different ways to to use it, and I'm having lots of fun with it. And I think that other people are going to be finding the same thing once they just get over that hurdle of or that barrier, if you like, of not even wanting to start. I think that's the hardest thing for people to do, is they have to start somewhere. Look, it's like video. If you've got a barrier to doing video, the first thing to do is just start. The main barrier is in your head, nowhere else. And so it's really a good idea to get moving on it. So Simon, you've been working with people like me who've been a little reluctant, shall we say. And so what is your feeling about this? Is attitudes now changing from the people that you're working with?
Well, people go very quickly from skeptic to enthusiast. And for anyone wondering, well, where do I even start? Pick up your phone, ask ChatGPT. So as Linnea knows, I have only 2 rules with regards to AI. Rule 1 is ask ChatGPT, and rule 2 is ask Simon, but only ask Simon once you've asked ChatGPT.
Now, this isn't Simon Says, is it, whether I need to get
Yes.
permission? It is Simon
Yep.
Says? Okay,
Yes, it is. Yep.
okay. And you're familiar with that game, I gather.
Oh, very much so. Yes.
Okay.
My recommendation to anybody who is looking to start working with AI is just to start, as Simon says, pick up your phone, log into ChatGPT and just talk to it. What I love about ChatGPT particularly is the fact that you can talk to it on your phone, and then you can go to the desktop version of ChatGPT, and what you have just been talking to on your phone about will show up there. And so is that there's that cross-device aspect to it, which I am really loving. There are downsides to ChatGPT, which are other platforms, of course, are overcoming. But I really enjoyed learning on LinkedIn from somebody who works in the design field just last week about ChatGPT's new evolution in imagery. And the designer was saying, don't be frightened of it. Get on board with it, learn how to use it, because it's going to be a great thing. And he gave some reasons why people shouldn't be frightened if they were designers themselves by this new innovation. And I think that that's a really good way to look at it, is not to see it all as a threat, is to find ways to work with it. And I think that has been something that has been a barrier for a lot of people, as they think it's going to put them out of a job, where I do not believe that is really going to be the case. But where people will be successful is if they learn how to use AI to do their jobs better. Now, I want to talk about some myths today, and I want to ask each of our panelists about a myth that they hear about AI that makes them roll their eyes and just go, oh, really? Are we still on this one? It's a bit like the myth of LinkedIn being all about a place to put your CV. Long gone, well out of date, but people are still believing that and still saying that. So, Achille, in your work, are you finding that there is some myth or some kind of misconception, shall we say, about AI that's still prevalent?
The one that AI will replace all human jobs is literally out there. I mean, that's, I think everyone is thinking that, and I do see where that exists, right? The reality is, if you position yourself and re-educate yourself on how to use the tools, yes, you may lose your job, or the function of currently where you're at may be eliminated because they don't need 10 of you, they need 2. But continuing to build that skill set, I'm telling you, will definitely be in your advantage in terms of finding work or finding something to do that's meaningful. The other one is that AI is only for, companies with big budgets. One of the things that I like to talk about in my book is that for transformation with large enterprises is one thing, and there's a significant amount of investment in there. But as I'll tell you, as Simon showed you I'll say pretty quickly, there's a lot of work involved to get onto the nuances. If you're a small solopreneur or a smaller independent organization, you literally gain a competitive advantage by learning these tools and putting them into your organization.
That makes sense. I want to learn to do jobs that I hate doing. So, for example, I really dislike writing SEO for my website pages or my blog posts, and I'm finding it's doing a really good job of that for me. And now I don't have to worry about it. It's done in an instant, and I know that it's reliable and it's doing the job well. So that's one thing that I no longer have to do. That would take me ages, mainly because I dislike doing it so much. And there are other things like that I want it to take over from me in my business and do better than I do. So I think that's one thing that taking over jobs that you don't like doing and doing it better than you would is a good thing for a start. So Nancy, what's on your mind in terms of this issue at all of these things we're talking about here?
Now, I totally agree with Achille. I think it's the biggest one. The biggest myth is about losing jobs, and instead it's about gaining skill so that you can gain more functionality in a quicker time and then be able to focus on something else. I'm excited by AI bots as well as AI prompts that right now I have a prompt that I've created that within minutes out comes your ideal client persona. And this is such a key item that companies need in order to do effective marketing. So I'm excited to share that. It's linked to my likability system, but it's there and very useful. So I'm excited by the possibilities.
Well, I picked up particularly from what you said there about the word prompts, because learning how to write good prompts for AI seems to me to be a critical skill that we all need to be learning, because if you don't put in the right information, was it you, Nancy, that said garbage in, garbage out? So putting the right information in and prompting it in the right way. I'm still in my learning infancy on that particular one, I must say. But here's something that is useful. We are, as I said, doing some AI information, or putting AI information into our Linkability member site now. But LinkedIn Learning has some really good courses on AI, which I've been having a look at, and I've done several so far, and I'm finding those extremely useful. If you're a premium member of LinkedIn, you've got free access to all the LinkedIn Learning courses, and there are hundreds, if not thousands of them, and not just about AI. I promise you all kinds of different things. And if you haven't looked at that, it's definitely worth following up and giving that a try. So Simon, your thoughts on myths and the dispelling thereof?
I'm always amused by people who are in a state of shock once I show them the power of AI and using some detailed prompts. And they say, wow, I now see I've only been playing with ChatGPT. You've now shown me how to use it seriously. I know we're short of time. One tip is there's now a Canva GPT.
Is there just?
And so you need to make sure you've got the right one. I'll share the link afterwards. But what that does is you can start a conversation with ChatGPT, and then at Canva, make sure you have the correct one, and you can then brief your image, your video, or what have you. And what really helps is to start with your ideal customer profile. I've got one similar to Nancy's. So it understands who you are, who you're trying to sell to, and what messages will resonate with your target audience.
Well, I like that idea. Because to me, I've spent the last 2 evenings trying to persuade ChatGPT to create an infographic for me. And it's not exactly been the easiest, and we're still not there. So knowing this means I've got a new avenue that I can try, Simon. So thank you so very much for that. And that's what hope that we would be able to do today is to find new tools for everybody who's listening that we can use in our own work, whether that's on LinkedIn or whether it's in our own businesses, or even if you need to find a Jamie Oliver risotto recipe. Whatever it is that you're looking for, AI is definitely going to be able to help you, and there's no question in my mind about that. So I'm going to whiz around the room one more time, asking for a final tip or idea from each of our panelists before we wrap up today. So we'll start with you, Kili, and I'll just mention that you have your new book out today, now available on Amazon worldwide. Let me just find it, The Digital Advantage. And I'll be going off the call and putting in an order for my copy immediately, because I really think, I know how long you've been working on this book, by the way, and so I'm really interested. I know how much work's gone into it. It's writing your own book is quite hard work. There's no question. So congratulations, I think, are in order on getting it out, finally out there this week. So one final tip from you today about it could be any aspect of AI that you choose.
You know what? I'll leave you with two thoughts. One is just start. And for those of you looking for the different tools and you don't know what AI or if there's something out there, there's a website called there'sanaIforthat.com. And it's a wonderful website that shows a lot of the new development that occurs around the world for new developers and things that are coming into production. And it's a great way to see what's out there and what's trending.
So that is there'sanaIforthat.com.
Yep.
Well, that's pretty cool, isn't it? I really like that. Thank you, Kili. Nancy.
My tip is that you need to create a prompt for your voice, how you write, because many of us are using these tools in order to write material, whether that material are instructions or they are posts or emails, whatever. It needs to be in your voice. And if you don't input your voice, what comes out is an AI voice that's very sterile and vanilla and uninteresting.
Well, I'm definitely going to try that, because I don't think that is something that I have done properly. So thank you. I'm going to be very busy after this today, I can see. And I know that Simon's going to have something for me that's going to be making me even busier, because I'll be asking AI and not Simon. Simon, finish us off today with something really useful.
You're still allowed to ask Simon.
Right. Okay.
What I would recommend is using the ChatGPT memory. So when I type LIP into ChatGPT, it knows to write a LinkedIn post in a format using a language that I have predefined. Mm-hmm. And that aligns with what Nancy's just said. So it's using those shortcuts as a detailed brief for here's what you want it to write, in what style, and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Oh, goodness me, I am going to be busy. I don't know anything about that either. Heavens, I'm so pleased that I asked you all to come today because there is so much to learn about this. And we might need to make this a regular gig, guys, because I think this is going to change very, very quickly. And all of us need to be kept up to date with the most important things. And you've been very, very helpful. So thank you to our Kili, to Nancy, and to Simon for spending an hour with us today, and for the preparation. I know that you don't just come on this event and just talk, and that there's some work that gets done behind the scenes so that you feel prepared. So thank you very much, all of you, for doing that and for showing up today. If you in the audience have not followed or connected with Nancy, Simon, or Kili, I recommend that you do, because they have lots of really good content that you will learn from, and they will be very happy to connect with you, I know, because that's the kind of people they are. So again, thank you everybody for joining us today. We'll be back here in a fortnight, not talking about AI, although I suspect AI is going to creep into all of our conversations over the next little while, and I do hope you will come along again and take part in the conversation. Thanks everyone. Have a fabulous rest of your day, and bye for now.